This is the Ted Wallison Podcast. Brought to you by Halenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Halenda's, the way sausage should taste. And Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And now, here's Ted Wallison.
Hi and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I do appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And if this is your first time listening, I hope you enjoy what you're about to hear. And please let your friends know. And you can follow us. If you do so, the podcast will always be there for you. And if you've got any thoughts, questions, comments, either good or bad, I'm cool, share them with me. You'll find me at Ted Wallison on Twitter, Facebook, and on LinkedIn as well. It's that simple. And I'm willing to accept any comments that you have. I mean that. It may hurt my feelings, but that's okay. I'll find some new feelings somewhere else. I'm thrilled this week, I got to tell you, to welcome back one of this country's greatest treasures and one of my favorite guests, Easy. She's a multi-platinum award-winning singer, a songwriter, actor, best-selling author, and is about to kick off her latest tour in January. We'll talk about the tour. In fact, we'll talk about all kinds of things because she's always willing to talk about all kinds of things. And coming December 10th, she has a Christmas special which will air on CTV. Welcome, Jann Arden. It's been a while since we chatted. How you been?
I've been very good. I've been all over the place. I've been to Europe a couple of times, and I toured and finished a book, fed my dog, went into menopause.
Excellent.
Yeah, just a litany.
And you had a big birthday, right, this year?
I did. I turned 60 in March.
How'd you feel about that?
Oh, fine. I'm not a birthday person at all. I actually feel so much better now than I did when I was 40. So I think that's, if people look after themselves,
yeah,
you can kind of go into it with some grace. I mean, there's a lot of things in life that we can't do shit about.
Yeah.
Cancer is very indiscriminate, and ALS, and there's no end to the things that are going to happen to us as we get older. But I think, I try and prepare myself as best I can for whatever's coming. But in the meantime, I try and eat pretty good. I try and keep moving. I'm not a big yoga person or anything like that. I'm not really a meditator, but I try and be happy. I try and stay happy.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, I remember years ago, and I turned 60 a number of years ago, but prior to that, I remember sitting around with some friends, and one of my friends who was a number of years older than I, he was like freaking out because he was about to turn 60, and at that point, we already had friends who were in their 70s, and I said to him, what are you so worried about? And it's like, he worried himself into old age. Like, I could almost see him turning older as he worried about getting older, which is the stupidest thing.
Yeah, isn't that the age-old tale with human beings? My very good friend Kim Dennis, who's also a very talented medium and psychic. Not a psychic, she's more of a medium, but she said that worrying is praying for things that you don't want.
Yeah.
So, there is a lot coming at us. Maybe it's our modern times, but I would imagine in 1825, they thought they were very modern as well. I think every age thinks that they are at the peak of technology and what's new and real. So I don't know if that applies. I'm sure they had a lot of crap coming at them too in 1910.
Yeah, you think about it, in 1825, and somebody's approaching 30, they're thinking, death's right around the corner.
Yeah, we're living a lot longer.
Much longer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's why people back in the day had so many kids, because they didn't know how many of them were going to make it. Child mortality. But if you lived till 25 in medieval times, listen to us. Listen to this history podcast. If you could get to 25, you had a very good chance of living to 60 or 70 years old. But getting to 25, which is the real funny thing now. So now we're worried about, okay, we're 25. Now it's getting to 65.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. Getting back to your question, I love getting older. I think my bag of tricks gets deeper and heavier of things that I can rely on, experiences that I've had, so that I can deal with stuff that's coming, that I can deal with obstacles and challenges.
Yeah.
I obviously have more experiences to draw from. I'm much easier on my body. I think more clearly. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to get a bit older. And one of my dear friends, Marianne Seeley, is 90. She'll be 91 in March.
Wow.
April. 91. We keep talking about going to Vegas.
Yeah, well, my friend Hazel McCallion, who's a former mayor of Mississauga.
Yes, I know Hazel.
She'll be 102 on Valentine's Day. And I saw her, ironically, sadly, I saw her at a celebration of life for a mutual friend of ours who passed at the age of 80. And this was just a few months ago. She looks great. She's still completely lucid.
She'd probably say, 80, you're just a kid. My friend Marianne always says that to me.
Yeah.
She's like, just keep blooming and just keep being positive. And Marianne loves slot machines and she loves Jesus. So, you can do it all. But she's very inspiring. She always plans things and always does stuff, and she's still driving. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. My dad was 79 when he passed away. My mom was 82. So I'm hoping that I do have 20 years.
Yeah.
But how are you feeling, Ted? Everything?
I'm feeling okay. I mean, as you know, we discussed this last time we talked. I had COVID and I was hospitalized for 10 days, but I got it before vaccines were available.
Yes.
And watch, you won't want to lose 10% of the audience because people should be vaccinated. Bang, there they go, they're gone. See you later.
Okay, well, that's good we
Yeah.
got that over with because I'm
Yeah.
waiting to get my booster, my 5th shot in January.
Yeah, so am I actually. So I've been okay, and I keep reading about long COVID, and people talk about these effects, and it could come at you at any time. And I'm thinking, like, well, you're scaring the hell out of me here because I don't have any long COVID effects. But now I'm thinking that every morning I wake up, I think I should be like exhausted, or my eyeballs should be hanging on the ground. You know what I mean?
I know. I wake up some mornings, I'm like, did I get any sleep at all? Did I sleep?
Yeah.
I'm doing kind of an interesting thing right now. I've signed myself up for this sort of holistic, just a whole, I guess, broad picture of my health. And I went to my first appointment a couple days ago, and it's sort of a wellness clinic. I won't name the doctor because I don't want to do that. I don't know if she'd like that. But she's a South African doctor. She's a medical doctor, but she's going into this whole holistic, treating yourself as like a whole person. But I did a 2-hour, like a set of questions that the questionnaire took me 2 hours to fill out.
Well, what the hell are they asking you for 2 hours?
I mean, it was so broad-reaching. My parents' history, what I knew, my grandparents' history, what I knew, my siblings' history. Had I ever spent any amount of time in a house that had been flooded with water? Had I ever, to my knowledge, been around any kind of mold? Did I ever have a person close to me or family that had been incarcerated? Like, it was so. When I started doing this questionnaire, I was just like, this is going to take me forever. Anyway, I went for my first appointment. I stood on this machine. I don't know if it's body weight index. I don't think it is. I held on to these metal handles, had to have bare feet. Then I had a big strap around my chest and did all these breathing things. And then I had to have a patch over my eye and a patch over my other eye and do all these vision tests and sensitivity to light. And it wasn't an eye test. She goes, this is not about your vision. This is something, I'm testing for something completely different. So I go back for my recap in the next 10 days. And then I have 2 more following appointments of a whole bunch of blood work. And then they sit down and basically tell you about your life and what you can do and what you need to work on and think about. And
so would that include like a diet? Would you then say, listen, stay away from this, stay away from that, eat more of this?
God, Tad, I don't know. I don't know what, but my friends did it and it's been so life-changing for them. And so I'm like, I want to go to your doctor friend. And it took me a while to get in. I'm not going to lie, because I guess there's a lot of people my age that are just, I think I call it an overhaul. I feel like I'm going to a minute lube to go get put up on the, on the lift and have them look at my chassis.
Yeah.
And see what fluids I need topped off.
Well, see if you can get free blades for your wiper blades.
Well, I'm hoping I get free wiper blades once I get through this thing. Yeah. But it's not.
How about what? What if this doctor tells you, for your own sanity, there's your dog, that's cool.
Yeah.
For your own sanity, give up Twitter. You wouldn't do that. You describe Twitter as one wonderful game of whack-a-mole, which is the way it was. But you put yourself out there, and people come at you, and they are cruel and ugly and just, full of vile and, oh, God.
Well, it doesn't say anything about me. It saes everything about them.
No,
So-
I know that. But
And once again, my bag of tricks. Here, Poppy, do you want me to put here? Let me put you down then.
I know you come at him with sarcasm and
Yeah. Well,
and kindness.
I'm just like, has foreplay come down to this, sir? Like, are you asking me out for coffee? But I think there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of vitriol. But, when getting back to the vaccine things, like I'll say, I just got my 4th vaccine and I'm going to start wearing a mask again. So one of the Twitter responses that I did, I was just like, here's what I said, and here's what Twitter basically says back to me.
Yeah.
Your music sucks, you're fat, you're ugly, and stop telling us what to do. So it doesn't take a genius to look at the unfolding of what's happened. I'm going to let my dog out. I'm going to let her out.
Okay, no problem. That's Jann's dog. Jann's dog apparently is barking because outside of Jann's wonderful home in Alberta, there are deer roaming, and the dog is excited about the deer. So now Jann is going to let the dog out.
Boy.
And I'm just explaining to the audience how your dog is barking because of the deer roaming your property.
So if you could see them right now, there's 3 deer that are looking at my deck. They're just staring at my deck because they think if they stare long enough that I'm going to go and put some bird seed out. But anyway, getting back to Twitter, I don't mind. Twitter has been an extraordinary platform. My dear friend Zaya Tong, author, producer, writer, thinker, dreamer, scientist. I call her a scientist. She probably wouldn't call herself a scientist. She really talks about how wonderful Twitter has been for gathering people together and, starting these revolutions and bringing attention to wars and hunger and marginalized people. So there's this, once again, that word fringe that has been coming at us for the last 2 years. They somehow get all the attention because I don't know why it's newsworthy, because it's not newsworthy. They're just scared people that don't want to participate in a just and fair and collective society, which I guess that's happened forever, right, Ted?
And it's interesting that the most common and the biggest spewers of vitriol are people who hide behind pseudonyms. They don't even have the balls to put their own name out.
No, it's Banana 17352. But when you come at
That's
people
me,
with,
by the way.
with those, is that you, Banana?
That's me.
Oh my gosh, we've been talking for 10 years, and I finally put a face to the name.
And there's a reason for that name, but we won't get into that.
Yeah, well, trolls, don't know they're trolls. Narcissists don't know they're narcissists. A-holes don't know they're a-holes. So, but when people's default is insults, then they don't have a leg to stand on. And if you go back to the trucker convoy of, 2022, you will see that they had no leadership. They had no focus. They couldn't tell media what they wanted. And when the mandates were slowly dropping from province to province over that series of months, they all started coming down and had nothing to do with the convoy truckers. It had everything to do with where we had gotten to as a society with our vaccines. We could start opening up. Every step that everyone is taking right now is because of millions and millions of people who vaccinated themselves. And those non-science guys will keep talking about, you still get the virus, masks don't do anything. Well, your viral load is lower. You get less of a hit from COVID. You if you're a person that would have ended up in a hospital, you're going to get COVID. Well, people. Anyway, there's no sense even trying to speak to them. But it's been such a sad thing to watch unfold. Yeah. But I try and have compassion, Ted. I really do. It's fear does weird things to people. But as an insult, a way to start a conversation, like that's what I mean. There was no leadership there. There was no one that could say of the truckers what they wanted to do. Okay, what do you guys want? Talk to the media. Oh, I looked at the media clips for hours sometimes on YouTube of them talking to these people. And it was quite something to behold because they really didn't know what they wanted. We want freedom. That was And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
I-
Exactly.
I didn't get it.
What I found really disturbing about the whole thing is not their actions. What I mean, I found that disturbing to a certain degree, but what they did with the Canadian flag as a symbol. Like,
Yeah.
people drive around with Canadian flags for a reason, and it's usually out of a sense of sincere patronage. That was not an act of patronage, driving around with the Canadian flag. Don't give me that BS if you think it was, because it wasn't. With the words "fuck Trudeau" written on there, that's an act of patronage. I don't care what your politics are, but that's, come on, grow up.
I know, it's so. My dad used to say, it doesn't matter who you vote for, Jan, the government always gets in. And I know what he meant in a broader sense. We watched this flip back and forth with the Liberals, the Conservatives, the Social Credit Party back in the day, the NDP, whatever it is. The new government gets in. So, when the Progressive Conservatives were voted out and Trudeau got in, they hated Harper at the end of his whole term. And then they're like this new hope, and now they hate him, and now they want to swing back the other way when they don't realize that, you're going to still have fiscal responsibilities. You're still going to have taxes to pay. There's, if everyone thinks Mr. Pierre is going to start making decisions that are going to make everybody happy, they're sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
It's once again going to be 6 months into any kind of leadership. People are going to go, oh, no, this isn't what I want. And I try and support who's ever leading us to a certain degree. I always pay my share. I try and be a responsible citizen. It's like, oh yeah, you snowflake, you're doing what you're told. Well, no, I want to do what's best for my neighbors and we have a little old gravel road here. I'm not going to dig up my road so it's for something to suit me that my neighbors suffer from. And that's what those movements are like. This is just for us. This is for the good of a few people. We don't care about anybody else.
Yeah.
But yeah, politics is such a weird thing to watch. I wouldn't go into politics, Ted, for all the money in the world. They get their lives threatened all the time. That never used to happen in Canada, to have your life threatened.
No. And what worries me is when I see not only what happened with the convoy and what happens in subsequent kinds of actions, it's what worries me is it going to go the next step where it's the equivalent of the United States January 6th?
Oh, I wouldn't surprise me in the least. I think we saw a little bit of that in Ottawa. I mean, maybe call me crazy, but when you have people moving in around Parliament buildings, threatening people, they're talking about this was peaceful. No, it wasn't. It wasn't peaceful at all. You had horns blaring. You gave people PTSD. You blocked borders. You blocked people from doing their businesses. They shut hotels and malls, and people lost millions and millions and millions of dollars in the name of freedom. And when you once again go back to any kind of leadership, which they're all being charged at the moment with various things, or certainly investigated, if not charged, with their actions. And now they're all just boo-hooing when they're in the question box. Tamara Leach, all those people are just crying, bawling their heads off. My dad can't even go for a cup of tea in a restaurant now without people harassing him. And I'm like, do you see the irony in your statement?
Yes, precisely.
Those people couldn't go to sleep, and you're talking about your dad not being able to have a cup of tea.
Yeah, and you're not talking about adults who are losing sleep, but you're talking about little kids, and you're talking about sick people, sick elderly people. I mean, it's like you don't know what's behind somebody's front door. You don't know if there's somebody in there who is just right on the fringe of stepping into a grave and needs all the peace and all the comfort possible. You have no idea what you're doing to them.
Well,
the name of freedom.
Yeah, it'll never happen in Ottawa again. I was just there playing with the symphony, raising money for women in the arts, which I was very proud to do. We raised over $1 million.
Excellent.
I was at the National Arts Center, and it was amazing. And of course, we're staying right downtown at the Westin, which is attached to the mall down there. And then it's attached to a very huge market area, which is very famous in Ottawa. It's fantastic. And the Rideau Canal that everyone skates on, but there's all these measures in place now. Huge, 20-ton concrete blocks that are very placed in really obvious spots as to not allow traffic up this road or that road. So we won't ever see that again. We won't ever see those kinds of gatherings get to that point. I personally think it should have been shut down day 2, but people are free to express themselves, but they're not free to terrorize and harass other people. That picture is never going to be beside peaceful protest in any dictionary, the picture of those guys in hot tubs, drinking beer, carrying their jerry cans around, smashing windows, defacing, the unknown soldier monuments. There was an excuse for every little piece of their behavior. So getting back to your question, could we see that here? I don't think we will going forward, because I think the people of Canada, the other 90%, know that it's not who we are and that it's unacceptable, and we don't want that.
And yet we still have this ability to gather together when times are tough. I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Chris St. Clair who worked for years on the Weather Network, and he writes about all these catastrophes that have occurred in the last 25 years in terms of weather. And he talked about what happened up at Fort McMurray with the wildfires.
Oh, man.
And he says that brought Canadians together like I've never seen in my life. So that we have the capacity to show compassion and to embrace each other. And then when something like this happens, it's like just as I was starting to feel good about people, you came and you ruined it.
Well, I should preface everything I just said with a bit of a caveat. These are not horrible, bad people. They're not.
Misplaced.
They're people with families. They're people that want the same thing that everybody else wants, to go to the movies, to have dinner with their friends, go on a vacation, feel safe in their communities, have autonomy over their own bodies. There was a lot of things that weren't handled perfectly well. But how could you? There was no template for this.
No.
There was
What's the same thing with COVID? I mean, they said, the government made mistakes, pharmaceutical companies made mistakes. Everybody made mistakes because nobody had ever done this before.
That's right.
How do you get through something that's never happened before?
So you're not going to please everybody.
No.
And there's going to be people that feel left out of the conversation.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people that are going to resort to that kind of anger, and I understand all that. But I hope we've learned for the next time. But I want to say that, I have friends that were part of that movement, and it wasn't the most comfortable conversations that I had.
Yeah.
There's still a friend of mine that I'm not speaking to, and I feel not good about it, because I feel like I should phone her, but it's such an elephant in the room, Ted, with where we're at in our lives. I think we're too old to be bickering, but it's not a small thing. It's such a difference in and I don't know how we can go forward with. And I don't want to talk about that every time we get together. I was just like, I don't want this to be at the center of everything we discuss going forward. I didn't have many friends. I had one or two, and I'm not going to say that it's been an easy thing to navigate, because it's heartbreaking.
Okay, let's take a break for that. Let's talk horseshit.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, horseshit.ca. This is a campaign that is very, very personal to you. Why that connection? Why that proximity?
I've been working with horses for many, many years. I live in rural Alberta. Years ago, I started working with the wildies, and the wildies are basically wild horses that graze on Crown land. Mm-hmm. The oil industry, the cattle industry, year after year after year, culled hundreds, if not thousands of them, rounded them up, enticed them into these big corrals with food, and then had them all slaughtered because they felt they were ruining the environment. So there's something to chew on. So this is the gas and oil and grazing cattle. they felt that these horses are just ruining the land for everyone and making it impossible to do business. So I went up against that. I think they still do some culling in March and April. There's still people that try and go against that. But with the horse shit, this is a little different. In 2006, the United States banned the export of live horses, and which that entails putting them in crates, putting them on 767s or whatever, big aircrafts, and flying them halfway around the world to be basically slaughtered live and fed to very rich people that want to eat raw horse meat. It's called bashimi. When that happened in the United States, they moved into southern Alberta, and they have feedlots that you could probably see from an airplane, thousands of very poorly treated large draft horses, because the Japanese, the Korean people, they want the large musculature. They want big horses. And the reason they don't have them there is because, A, they don't have the land or the water or the resources to have that kind of large animal. Mm-hmm. So they spend an inordinate amount of money flying them from Edmonton, Winnipeg, and Calgary in these crates. They're terrified. They're in the crates sometimes for 40 hours. It's, they're allowed to not give them water or food or any kind of comfort. They're in those boxes in the dark. They endure turbulence. There's been many, many deaths, many, dozens and dozens of severely injured horses that have been, in these planes for 16 hours, 14 hours, because they don't know the turbulence are coming. They fall over. That's what happens. Sometimes you drop 5,000 feet out of the sky. So horse shit is trying to put an end to this. We had 80,000 signatures on a petition last year, sponsored by the government. Nate Erskine, thank you, Nate, for sponsoring that government petition. Then the election happened. And when Trudeau was campaigning, one of his promises was mandating a banning to that live horse export. It doesn't feed Canadians. It doesn't employ hundreds of Canadians. It employs some Americans that came up here, set up shop because of all our loopholes. So now we have another petition going, and this has been sponsored again, and we're hoping to get 100,000 signatures, which means it has to go before the House. So we just want to get it stopped. It's a sinister part of Canadian agriculture. We are one of the biggest suppliers of horse meat in the world. There's horses that are being traveled up from Mexico, up from the United States, because they slaughter here like maniacs. And the horses that aren't graded to go overseas on the plains are just slaughtered here and served up frozen. And people could say, so what's the difference between that and a cow? Well, we don't fly cows on planes. Mm. We don't put cows on planes. Cows are traveled on the ground. Cows go, hopefully a lot of times from a field to a slaughterhouse, boom, bang. A horse endures, they're in feedlots, they're never free. They're up to their ankles in shit. They're fed by big trucks that feed them some kind of sludge because it's cheap. They try and fatten them up. They put as much weight on them as they can in 18 months. These horses never see a green field. And you should see how they're advertised in Japan and Korea. These massive horses with beautiful long manes running over, it looks like The Sound of Music, because it's all marketing. That's how they're branding. This is where these Canadian horses are coming from, and it's a lie. And it's a fistful of guys making millions of dollars, and they're not paying their taxes because they're calling themselves farmers. And I could go on. Are you sorry you asked me the question?
No, not at all. Not at all. Horseshit.ca, that's where you want people to go. You want people to sign this petition.
Yep.
And I don't know why the Prime Minister, because he's a politician, because they promise things and they take their sweet time about doing it.
Well, all I can say to the Prime Minister is you can care about more than one thing at a time, and that's what being a government is all about. There's lots of small issues. There's people trying to get a break on an insulin price. I know that in the big scheme of things, people are like, well, people are starving. There's a Ukraine war, Russians, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, you can care about more than one thing at a time. That's what we have to do.
Well, we do that every day as human beings.
Yes. What, are you supposed to just have one friend?
Yeah.
Oh, no, exactly. I'm sorry. I can't talk to you. I have one friend already. Makes no sense how people think.
Exactly.
Ted Woloshyn returns in a moment.
Hey, if you're looking to restock your wardrobe, maybe you should consider my friend Tom Mahalik at Tom's Place. He is the inflation fighter, and right now they've got incredible deals like Lipson shirts. I love these shirts. Regularly up to $225, now only $66. Designer suits are regularly up to $599, now between $179 and $279. And if you're looking for a nice sports jacket, valued at up to $695, well, they're 50% off. Tom Spice and Kensington Market. They're located at 190 Baldwin. Check them out. They are the inflation fighters. Have you been tasked with the role of a state executor, or expected maybe in the future you will be? Well, if so, let me make your life a lot simpler by introducing you to my friend Debbie Stanley. Debbie is the founder of ETP Canada. They specialize in estate administration. Their goal simply is to help Canadian executors understand their role and how to deal with the loved one's estate. Let's face it, there's no school for this, but ETP Canada offers services such as executor support, estate accounting, and they have a new online course called Executor Ready. It's an engaging video designed to make estate administration easier and affordable. And those are two comforting thoughts during a stressful time. So call Debbie Stanley at 1-866 309-0387. That's 1-866-309-0387. Or you can get her at info@etpcanada.ca. That's info@etpcanada.ca.
Now back to Ted Wallachin.
You're about to go back on tour again.
January 27th, I start.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's a comedian who sings or a singer who makes people laugh, or a great combination of both things. But you got a lot of energy about you on stage. You got a great rapport with the audience, and I'm thinking you must feed on that energy. The feedback from the audience.
I really love it. The stage isn't my life, that's for sure. I was really happy to not be traveling the last couple of years as much as I was. You know, it's hard being away from home 250 days a year. I'm not complaining. That's how I make my living. But I really do like people to think about their lives, and I do want them to leave having a sense of encouragement that I'm cheering them on. And it's great to laugh. I don't think my music's all that depressing. My critics would, beg to differ. But I'm certainly not Nirvana, and I'm not Aerosmith. I do my own peculiar little thing. But that's what I do. Even when I try not to write, the way I write, I can't do it. I always fail at trying to reimagine what my music would look like. Poppy loves my music.
Yes. Jann Arden is my guest, and Poppy is her dog, and he's my guest too, I guess, at this point. When you do your television show, do you enjoy doing that? Because there's something about television that's so slow, the process of repeat this. Oh, that was great. No, that line was off. Oh, the lighting was not right there. The lighting was good there, but the staging was off. Doesn't that make you crazy for somebody who's got so much energy?
Well, because I'm, one of the executive producers of the show, and I've been involved in creating it, and I'm involved in the storyline to a certain degree. I don't sit idle in between, scenes. I'm always sort of trying to do it. It's a little of a different role, but I've really enjoyed it. And because I don't know what I'm doing, and I probably am a terrible actor, that it just fuels me on even more to try. I'm not afraid of failing. Certainly at this age, I probably was when I was 20. Or maybe even 30, but I'm not now. And I'm not afraid of, people calling me out, and obviously with Twitter, I'm not afraid of people saying, "You suck, quit telling us what to do." But I enjoy the arts. I love the people that I work with, working with other creative people. And, even getting this show off the ground has been such a triumph. I'm working on another show right now, which is a 1-hour crime procedural with Leah Gautier, who I did the Jann show with. Also, we had another partner, Jenica Harper, who's a fantastic writer, creator as well. But Leah and I have been working on, this sort of a rural, nutty Twin Peaks meets Murder, She Wrote crime procedural. So we're just starting to shop that now and getting it to Amazon and Paramount Plus. And
you're going to star in that as well?
Well, I think so. I think so.
Good for you.
I certainly like creating jobs for myself, but I also like creating jobs for another 150 people that we will need to make the show happen. And plus we want to do it in Alberta. So I'm always trying to be, part of a solution. People are like, "You still live there?" And I'm like, yeah, hopefully I'll die in this house. I'll kick my clogs in here, but it's an amazing province. I think the tax credits have gotten better for creators. But no, I don't want to sit in LA for 6 months or Toronto for 6 months. I want to be here to do it.
Yeah, yeah. You've worked with a lot of great artists over the years, people like Michael Bublé. Jackson Browne was an interesting situation for you because he sang with you on one of your songs, on one of your albums. The song slips my mind right now, but you couldn't give him credit.
Unloved.
Yeah, Unloved. And it was a great song, a fabulous song, but you couldn't give him credit.
Well, I don't even remember that. Is that true? Does it not say with Jackson Browne on the album?
I don't think it does. And I think it had to do with because he was with another label.
Somebody write us and tell us that.
Yeah.
You're telling me something I don't even know. I thought he was credited on the album.
Well, I may be wrong.
Maybe there was something. Listen, I don't know. I know I have an LP here somewhere of that. It got redone. They're doing all these reissues of vinyl, which is so fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
The kids are playing vinyl again, but Ted, the kids, they're dusting off their parents' old record players, and they're plugging in the speakers. Do you remember when you had to put tape pennies or quarters on the needle to get it to play?
Yes.
'Cause when the needle started wearing out, oh God.
Yeah. Or if a record was warped, you had to do that as well to get through the warp.
Yeah, don't leave your vinyl in the back of the station wagon in the sun, kids, because you'll really fuck that up. Were you ever a member of the Columbia Record Club?
No, I was not, but I believe my mother was at one point because I do recall seeing lots of like bad albums coming through the mail.
Some of my favorite albums because you pick the first 10 for 1 cent. You get 10 records for a penny, and then they send you one every month that was like $27.99. Can you imagine $27 in 1975 for a record? Yeah. But anyway, some of my favorite records I remember getting Bette Midler and James Taylor's Flag and Herb Alpert and the Tijuana Brass and all these people I'd never heard of that are absolutely Dr. Hook. Yeah. I'm like, ooh, it really shaped the way I thought about music and the way
my
I
mother
wrote.
was getting my mother was getting like Percy Faith and stuff, right? It's like really, like.
Did she like the Zamfir?
I don't think she knew who Zamfir was. I think we kept that away from her purposely.
Roger Whittaker, Nana Muscuri.
Oh yeah, well of course.
We had all those too. I was the stuff that Mom and Dad played affected me greatly, just that kind of pop sensibility. My brother had Jethro Tull and Frank Zappa and Kiss and Uriah Heep. So I was hearing all this kind of metal, I guess it was art metal. It was nutty. And then, of course, you discover David Bowie, and the Beatles never really crossed across my door until I was probably in my 40s, believe it or not. I mean, I heard it on the radio, but now I'm just a fanatic for all things Beatles and listening to their old stuff.
Well, people forget that the Beatles stopped recording like in 1970 or whatever. Like they had a really short career.
Yeah,
they were fairly prolific, but it wasn't a long career. I mean, not like the Stones are still playing, right? Still playing, still touring. I don't think they're recording. Maybe
they're only one man down, right? I think the Beatles are two man down now.
Yeah.
Listen, I love the freaking
and there's one microphone down.
Microphone. Everything just fell over.
Oh my God, you all right?
I'm fine. I just got really excited. I was about to talk about the Backstreet Boys and New Kids on the Block that I listen to on a regular basis. What's happening to me?
I don't know. My daughter wanted to marry Nick from Backstreet Boys, and
get in line.
Yeah. One time I introduced her to one of the Backstreet Boys. I think at Much Music they had their big concert or whatever it was, and I introduced her to one of them. And my daughter, she reminds me very much of you. She's very outgoing. She doesn't hold back at all. She couldn't open her mouth. She just froze. I went, "Oh, this is my daughter Tanya." It was like she was having a stroke or something.
Well, I did the same thing with Olivia Newton-John. I dreamed about meeting her my whole life, and probably about 10 years ago, Amy Skye, thank you, Amy Skye, she gave me an opportunity to not only sing a duet with Olivia, but arrange for me to, go backstage. I don't know what I said. I felt like I was going to cry because Olivia was Olivia. It was Olivia Newton-John, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. Yeah. And I met her a few times over the years, but I feel for your daughter. I don't know why it happens. I did the same thing with Bette Midler, another one of my heroes. Just didn't really say an English sentence. Just kind of like, really great.
When people, do you ever get that when people meet you
Yes.
when you're touring? Where they just
Yes. It's very fun. Well, not so much touring, but in Costco or something.
Oh yeah, well, even because that's especially when they don't expect to meet you.
They just
like,
say the strangest things, like you're not.
What are you doing here?
You're
Well,
not.
I'm
You don't look
shopping.
as fat in person. I've had that a few times. I actually have had people say that to me. You don't look.
Oh my God.
You're not fat in person. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm a size 10. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. Probably size 4 according to the world, but.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I had a woman race up to me and say, "Oh my God, Ann Jordan." I'm like, well, close enough.
I've had people come to me and say, you sound taller on the radio. I said, I'm 6'4". Well, exactly how tall do you think I am?
Well, this is what I mean. But it's never mean-spirited. A woman of probably a year and a half ago, I didn't have my mask on because I was in a parking lot. And she said, she just sort of saw me from, I'm going to say 20 feet away. She goes, "Oh, hey, I know you." She goes, "Oh my God, you could be Jann Arden's mother." And I'm like, well, that's fair, because I probably could be Jann Arden's mother now, because she probably had a picture of me from 30 years ago from Much Music. So I understood. It wasn't an insult. It was like, you're aging, but you still look like you. So anyway, I just take it with, my mama taught me well. She just taught me to have some grace. I don't think she would have been too thrilled with some of the things I've said on Twitter, but, alas, this is how it goes.
Is there somebody that you would like to perform with that you haven't? Someone that you'd like to do a duet with?
I mean, I would love to sing with Bette Midler. I would love to sing with James Taylor. I would love to sing again with Jackson Browne. I would love to sing with Carly Simon. I would love to sing with Cher.
Well, do they know this?
I don't know, but
Because, sometimes you might be surprised. Like, somebody might say to Carly Simon, Jann Arden would love to sing with you. You're kidding. I'm a huge fan of Jann Arden. Like, you don't know that.
But I'd love to sing with Alan Doyle. And Alan and I have tried over the years to even find 10 minutes to write a song and do something. So, Alan, this is our decade. Alan Doyle, Great Big Sea.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. And he's busy all the time, too. But, he's so great. But I've singing with Jim Cuddy on a record years ago, a song called Mend. I mean, he just nailed it. It was such a thrill singing with him. And when I was on tour with Michael Bublé, this would have been like 2005, 2006, 2007. I went all over the frickin' world with that guy. But he would have me up once in a while to sing You Don't Know Me. And I just remember being on stage with him, and he was young too. He was just starting that climb up the mountain, but it was still such a fun time to sing with Michael. And believe it or not, years ago we did Don't Go Breaking My Heart. And
The Elton John Kiki D song.
yeah, but his label would never have let me put it out. But I still have the recording of it. And Russ Broom, my writer, producer, longtime friend, he sent the file to me and he goes, "I just came across you singing with Michael Bublé, Don't Go Breaking My Heart." And boy, that'll be a gem for all time's sake, is hanging on to that.
No, I remember meeting him very briefly at the beginning of his career. And he seemed like a really down-to-earth, really nice guy. I hope he hasn't changed.
He's he would do anything for anybody. He's, if I was one criticism about Michael, he's so generous and he can't say no. He's a really good guy. He's helped us out so much on the Jann show. He did a guest appearance and he did another little blip for us on this show. He appears we did a 1-hour Christmas special of the Jann show that airs December the 10th on CTV.
Excellent.
And he's very funny in that. Bryan Adams is also on the Jann show December the 10th. He sings a brand new Christmas song. So hopefully people will tune in for that. But I'm very lucky to know these guys. And of course, Bruce Allen manages them both. So that's kind of my in there.
Do you are you a big fan of Christmas?
Yeah, I love Christmas. I have a Christmas tree up right now. I put it up after the 11th of November, just FYI.
Good for you.
And I do love Christmas. I'm going to Dorset for Christmas to hang out with my lovely friend Nigel. So I'll be over there, but we swap every year. He either comes here or I go there, and that's what happens. That's the new world. You have friends all over the world. It's so nutty how small the world seems now.
You know something that when I was reading about you, and I always try to read up a little bit more and more about you whenever we chat. I didn't realize that you sang at the 2006 NBA All-Star Game, the national anthem.
I did. Oh my God, Ted! It was the class. I went down with my
I've talked
friend.
to musicians. Yeah, let me just say this really quickly before you answer, because I've talked to some artists, musicians, singers, who swear that they will never do that, even if they're paid $1 million.
I was paid nothing.
Well, exactly. And they say, because
down.
if you screw it up, people say, how do you screw up an anthem?
Well,
because that's the easiest thing to screw up.
I did "O Canada," obviously. Guess who did the American one?
I don't recall.
So I went out with a pair of jeans and a little leather coat. That was, I think I bought it at Winners. I'm not kidding you. I had these cool kind of work boots on that I loved. I went down there with my road manager. It was him and I did the song, blah, blah, blah. Then these fans roll out, like giant circular fans, not screaming fans that want your autograph. Big silver fans, like 4 of them that are 10 feet high or whatever. Beyonce was doing the American anthem. And she had wind blowing in her beautiful hair, and I just did it a cappella, and I think she had like a whole frickin' track. But I got this huge swag bag of the biggest jerseys and the biggest hats and a basketball and that you've ever seen in your life, and I gave it all to my guy. That was just like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no, I don't know what to do with this. I can't name one basketball player. I don't know. But yeah,
did you do it live, or did you pre-record it?
It was live.
Because in some cases they don't allow people to do that live anymore.
Well, probably not anymore. But I just waltzed out there. I didn't, rip the Pope's picture in half or anything like that. So that was probably no. I know why live is an issue, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I love Sinead O'Connor, by the way. I love her.
Yeah.
I love her. I stand behind her. I love her so much. She's such an amazing artist. But anyway, yeah, it was a really fun day. It was in Houston, Texas, I think. And I was still eating meat back then. And we went to some kind of Looney Tune barbecue place, and I'm really lucky that I lived to talk about it. But thank you for bringing that up, Ted. I haven't thought about that since 2006.
Well, is that a bad memory?
No, it's a great memory, but it
good.
makes
Well,
me
it should
laugh
be.
because I just felt like, here's the Canadian hick with nobody. There she goes. She's singing the song just with her little microphone in her hand. Everyone's looking at me in my jeans and my winter's jacket, and then Beyonce with her, oh my God.
You should have done, because so many Americans would have probably figured, well, this is only fitting. When she had the fans blowing, you should have had fake snow falling.
I should have had fake snow falling.
Exactly, because we don't go anywhere without snow falling on us, as most Americans know.
The things that I've done in my career, I just am so grateful. I remember years ago, 25 years ago, I met Richard Carpenter, and Karen Carpenter was one of my all-time idols, as I know she was for so many other little girls.
What a voice.
What a voice. Passed away at 32 years old. But meeting him, and then I got to meet their mom. Richard was standing next to his mother, and he said, let me introduce you to Mother. And I'm like, that's Karen Carpenter's mom. I mean, she's long since gone. Richard is still kicking around, but I'll never forget that moment. And I got to sing with him. I sang, he was playing this little baby grand white piano, and I sang We've Only Just Begun, but I couldn't sing it in her key. Mm-hmm. I had to sing it a little bit higher because Karen was an alto and I'm not. So, but him singing the backup vocals, and I did such a terrible job, and my mouth was numb, and I couldn't get my breath, and I was so terrible. And standing.
Is that a Burt Bacharach, Hal David song?
I think it is. Or was it
one more question for the audience?
Was it Williams? Was it
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams? And he was there that night. He was
could be,
there.
you're right.
Yeah, he was standing there. I believe we were doing honoring Paul for songwriting. So maybe he had something to do with that. I don't know. This is not a factual show, folks. We do not have any.
No.
We don't
No,
have the facts.
No, do not place any money down on anything that Jann says
No, we've
or I
said.
say.
God, certainly not me.
as-
Probably you, because you're researching stuff, but not me.
Yeah, well, I have to do that because otherwise I'm a complete idiot. I only want to look like half an idiot. Do you still play golf?
I love golf. I'm terrible, but
Yeah.
I've played since I was 9.
Yeah, that was the first time I met you. I met you at a charity event, and Peter, and I think we talked about this last time we chatted. Peter Jacobson, the former golfer, who's a bit of a comedian as well, he was the MC, and he introduced you, and he talked about how he was just crazy about your music.
Well,
I remember that.
That was very nice of him. Yeah, that was a really fun tournament. It was to raise money for something. I can't remember.
I don't recall either, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still play as well, but I'm terrible. I'm getting worse all the time, but enjoying it more and enjoying it in a different way.
Yeah.
Kind of like we were talking about when you're getting older, you enjoy things for different reasons.
Yes.
Like I enjoy more the camaraderie and the fresh air, and getting out and just the aesthetics of it as well.
Oh, I
As
love
opposed
being
to-
outside. I don't mind looking for the ball for 20 minutes. I like having a pop and a bag of peanuts and some chips on the cart and zooming around. And I always have such great visits with my friends that I go with. We always get caught up.
Yeah. No, your Poppy is still barking because of the deer.
I don't know what's out there. I'm scared to even look. I'm going to mute him. I'm muting him.
No, you can't do that. You can get one of those collars where you can shock them.
Oh, he's only 5 pounds, Ted.
No, I know. What kind of dog is it exactly?
He's a Morkie, so he's Maltese and Yorkshire Terrier.
A Morkie.
Poppy! It's, when I first got him, it took him about 4 months to bark. I thought, oh, what a quiet little dog. And then when he first opened his mouth and what you're hearing now, I was like, oh, please, Jesus, tell me that this isn't his bark. This is terrible. This is so shrill. It makes my ears ring. And thank heavens, I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a cat out there. I can see a black cat.
Oh, very nice.
Yep.
You said at the outset of the interview, Jann Arden is my guest, that you just finished writing another book?
It only took me 15 years, and I wrote 2 books in between it, but I have a novel that's going to be out November the 7th of next year. And Ann Collins is my brilliant, wonderful editor, and we're just, hacking our way through the weeds. But yeah, it's finished all for the, just getting it into a proper shape. Spelling corrections and grammar and all that kind of stuff. But Ann Collins at Random House is going to get me into good shape. But I'm really excited about it. It could be a piece of crap, but I've really enjoyed working on it, and I'm really proud of it. And it's going to be so fun kind of doing the cover and getting all that kind of stuff. But I've never written a novel before. This is my first novel.
Yeah. Your last book was 5 years ago, Feeding Your Mother, Comfort and Laughter in the Kitchen as My Mom Lives with Memory Loss, which must have been an incredible adventure for you in terms of writing that, both painful and also in a positive way as well. Because as you write about it, you see the positives in there as well. Because there are positive days, right?
Yeah, it was the hardest thing I ever did, and the most rewarding thing I ever did was look after Mom and my dad. They both had memory loss diseases, and I think it was kind of a love letter to my mom, indeed, because when you lose somebody an inch at a time, when you lose them a day at a time, an hour at a time, it's you don't always see it, The losses are so small that it just seems like, I'm so sorry, this dog.
No, don't.
The losses seem, you don't really
I'm just going
know.
to tell everybody that you live at a pound.
You don't notice them as much. Like after 4 or 5 or 6 years, I just was looking at my mother going, oh my God, the person that I knew is completely gone. So, but that goes with mourning as well. You mourn an inch at a time. You mourn an hour at a time. It's not like losing someone to a car accident where it's this massive shock and you don't have any kind of a chance to have any reconciliation or say what you want to say. With Alzheimer's, they call it the long goodbye because it's just this constant pounding of your immune system and these little losses that the mourning goes along with it. It's an inch at a time. So there was lots of lessons to learn. I guess that's all I'm saying is I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about being in the moment and staying in the moment. And I learned a lot.
I'm glad that you had the time to spend with me this morning to chat about all kinds of things. And that's one of the things I love talking about you is that we can talk about virtually anything. And you're one of the most open people that I know. And also always full of great insights and great humor and compassion.
Well, we've always had fun talking to each other from the get-go. From the first time I walked into your studio, we had such a great time. And it was like, I think groups of souls travel together. And it's an honor for me to, I'll do this anytime. We're an act now, Ted. We're an act.
That's right.
So we got to take it on the road.
Yeah, speaking of on the road, your tour begins in January, end of January, right?
It starts January 27th, and I'll be all through Ontario. I'll be in New Brunswick a little bit, and then we're going to Newfoundland, and we have a couple of nights in St. John's, and so that'll be really, really great.
You're coming through my city of Mississauga in Ontario, and I'm going to come by and see you.
I will get you tickets, so don't you dare buy them. Consider it done. I'll force you to have something off of my very vast and wonderful rider of, celery sticks and tea.
Oh, excellent. Celery sticks. Terrific. And we'll remind people again that coming up December 10th, the very special Christmas special with a very special. That's really
it's especially special. This special,
an especially special Christmas special,
and it's called Jann Alone for the Holidays, and it's very funny.
And it's with all kinds of your friends.
December the 10th, Michael Bublé, Bryan Adams, and me, and then the whole cast is with us. Most of the cast is with us. A couple people couldn't make it, but we cried about it. But, what can you do?
Yeah. Look forward to that. Look forward to seeing you. And again, thanks so much, Jann, for your time. All the best to you.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you. See you soon.
You bet. Bye, Poppy. And thanks once again to all for listening. And if you do get a chance, click on the follow button and the podcast will always be there for you. And also, if you get a chance, go online and fill out your organ and tissue donation card. You could change or even save a life. Have a great week.
The Ted Wallisham Podcast has been brought to you by Tom's Place. For the finest in men's clothing at unbeatable prices, it's Tom's Place at 190 Baldwin in the heart of Kensington Market. Tom's Place will suit you. And Helenda's, the meat people. Enjoy their award-winning products at selected Metro, Sobeys, Fortino's, and Foodland locations. Helenda's, the way sausage should taste. The Ted Wallisham Podcast is produced by Joey Roselli. Technical production by Paul Gatt. Music by Bike Thieves. I'm Becky Coles. Submit your questions and comments to ted@twmedia.ca.